Hi, our story for today is Sea Otters by Patricia Kendall. Now, this is a non-fiction book, so there is a lot of information in this book for you all. And of course, it is also my favorite animal. It is about a sea otter. Where sea otters live. Sea otters live in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of the United States, Canada, and Russia. A sea otter will spend most of its time in the sea, but its close relative, the river otter, often comes out onto the riverbank. So you can see here on the left we have our sea otters, and over here we have our river otter. Baby sea otters. A sea otter mother gives birth to one baby at a time. The pup is born in the water near the seashore. The pup cannot swim at first, but its beautiful, fluffy fur helps it to float. The sea otter mother often wraps kelp around her pup to make sure the baby isn't washed away. Aren't they adorable? Looking after the pup. A sea otter mother carries the pup on her stomach to keep it safe and warm. She feeds her pup on milk that is rich in fat to help it grow quickly. Sea otters do not have many enemies, but a mother will try to protect her pup from creatures such as this bald eagle. Growing up. By the time it is 2 months old, the pup has learned how to swim and dive underwater. A mother sea otter teaches her pup where to find food and how to eat it. At 6 or 7 months old, the pup can live on its own. Family life. Sea otters float closely together in the water. A group of sea otters is called a raft. Isn't that an interesting name for a group of sea otters? A raft. Mother sea otters and their pups live together. Groups of male otters live in groups apart from the female and the pups. Food. These colorful sea urchins are a favorite food of sea otters. They eat many different sea creatures, including shellfish like this crab. Do you see that crab? That is one of the favorite foods of sea otters. Tools for eating. Sea otters float on their backs and use their stomachs like a table. They break open the shellfish using a small rock. This sea otter is using its teeth to break open a mussel shell. Keeping warm. Sea otters have a lot of very thick fur to keep them warm in the cold seawater. They do not have a layer of fat like this seal. Sea otters spend much time keeping their fur clean and fluffy. This sea otter is grooming her pup. Swimming. Sea otters swim using their back feet, which act as flippers. They can stay underwater for several minutes at a time. They do not often come on the land, but when they do, they move awkwardly. And the word awkward kind of means a little weird. They don't normally walk like other animals do. Resting. Sea otters sometimes pull fronds of kelp around themselves. This stops them from floating away in the moving water while they rest or sleep. And you can see the kelp kind of almost looks like some kind of seaweed or a type of seaweed. It's a plant that grows in the water. Sea otters sleep with their feet out of the water. This helps them to stay warm. I like to sleep with my feet out of the covers. Do you guys? Notice how the otters are sleeping with their feet out of the water. Threats. The sea otter has to compete with people who also like to eat shellfish. Fishermen are able to catch a lot of shellfish at one time. Sometimes sea otters are shot because they take shellfish from shellfish farms, like this one. That makes me very sad. And dangers. The main danger for sea otters is oil pollution. If an otter's fur gets covered with oil, the otter gets cold and cannot swim well enough to find food. Pollution from other dangerous chemicals can make the sea otters and their prey sick. And you can see this pollution going into the ocean here. Helping sea otters to survive. People must try to prevent the sea from becoming polluted. This is important for all sea creatures. If people learn more about what sea otters need, then more of them will be able to survive in the future. The end. And back here we have a glossary, which is like a dictionary that tells the meaning of some of the words. Compete, that means they try to win against someone else. Fronds, that was one of those words that was in the book towards the beginning, and that is bits of seaweed that wave about in the water. Grooming, cleaning the coat of an animal. So if you have a dog or a cat at home, you may take them and get them groomed. That means they're getting a bath and getting their fur taken care of. Kelp, a type of seaweed. Pollution, when water or air becomes filled with poisons. Prey, an animal hunted and eaten by another animal. Pup, a baby sea otter. Relative, an animal in the same family, and a shellfish farm. Places in the sea where people raise shellfish. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this book. Here we have an index. So if you have an interesting topic that we talked about in this book that you would like to go back and look, it tells you what page you can go back and look at, and it has a cute little picture of one of our sea otters. I hope you all have enjoyed this story.